Welcome to the Pull the Chute podcast with Jeff and Jana. This is our weekly venture into the world of small to medium-sized businesses and the entrepreneurial spirit that drives success.
So our goal here is to help you grow and to be the best you can be, both in business and personally. To do that, we identify and we discuss topics that will hopefully help you as you work to build a successful business.
We also interview business owners and executives. It's our hope that you may be able to gain insight on ways to help you be a better leader and provide a better culture for your people.
Our mission here is to help you pull the chute once a week to work on your business instead of always working in your business.
So we hope you find these discussions insightful, helpful, and useful.
And thanks for your support. We hope you enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the Pull the Chute podcast with Jeff and Jana. As always, we're so delighted that you are here today. I am in Chicago today. Jana's in Nashville today. They're enjoying beautiful weather. I have a sweater on. I'm in Chicago. That's how cold it is here. So,
Jana, better than 106 heat index like we have in summer.
I know. Yeah. It's just like, dang, it was, and again, I got my Nashville blood going. It was, it's 55 here, which some people are like, oh, that's balmy. I'm like, I'm freezing right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thicken your blood to go up north,
Yeah. Yeah. So how are you doing, by the way, Jen? You doing good?
I'm good. It's Friday. We're, pretty weather. We're moving into fall.
Yeah.
Holiday pumpkins are happening. So we're good.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And the funny part about it is we're recording this, this show probably will not air until January sometime. So, it'll be fun. We could flash back.
That's right.
To it.
Yeah.
So anyway, Janet, we have a great guest today that I've known for a couple of years now. Craig Paxson is with us. I'm excited that he is on the show. And Craig, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jana. Glad to be here.
So Craig, what we like to do is have our guests tell us a little bit about, just for our listeners, a little bit about you, your background, and how you got to where you're at today. So if you wouldn't mind, please.
Yeah. So I was a CEO of a $8 million business for a while. And then we were purchased or merged with another couple of businesses. And after transition, I was given my bronze parachute to go away.
I love that term.
Yep. Not a gold parachute. I still got to work. And so that was in January of 2020, and I decided that I would go into helping other small businesses. Didn't know exactly what route I would take. Right before the pandemic, it was perfect timing to help small businesses. And, I became a certified executive coach. I became a certified exit planner. I have a certification in strategy planning, and kind of just, doing some coaching, doing some strategy work, and winding around trying to figure out exactly what I was going to do. A few years ago, it came to me that being a fractional COO was the right way to go. And that has morphed to where I really do more fractional chief of staff work. And I focus right now on small law firms.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, so that's really interesting to me, Craig. What's the difference between a COO and a chief of staff? There's got to be specifics to that.
Right. Yeah. So, in a large organization, the COO would be in charge of operations. Obviously, that's in their title, right? So the operational people would report to them. Whereas the chief of staff is really much more of a strategic partner to the CEO, as opposed to being in charge of something, right? So in my role as a chief of staff, I touch everything to do with that small law firm, right? I touch the strategy, the finance, the operations, the people. So it is truly being the right-hand person of the CEO or business owner, right? The attorney who owns the business in this case. Now, I still call myself a COO simply because a lot of people like you don't know what a chief of staff is, but I am focused on that, really being the strategic partner of the business owner as opposed to just focusing on operations.
Okay. And so you're working with attorneys now. Do you find that there's sort of a specific issue or plan within that market segment that is pretty common? We always like to dig into the dirt. Jeff and I were like, okay, so what do you find? Give us like the two most common, let's say, misdirections or errors or struggles that these law firms are dealing with.
Well, for a lot of small law firms, there are some really good coaching programs that they have gone through as a very small. There is Law Firm Mentor is a really good one. There's There's another one that really get the attorneys into a business mindset, right? Like, how do you actually approach being a solo or very small attorney as a business? But that is just coaching. And at some point in time, they actually need some hands-on, right? They need somebody to help manage projects. They need somebody to help them understand what the market is like. They need somebody to help them look at the finances. They not from a bookkeeping standpoint, but they need somebody to really understand, what is my break even? How does this fit? They need somebody to coach their employees, to be hands-on with their employees, right? So they need somebody in that seat. And so that's what I find with a lot of small business owners, small business attorneys, is that they have a lot of knowledge, obviously, around the law. A lot of them are growing a business around their law, but they need somebody to really manage the firm, right? Now, as a fractional, as you know, I am not in the firm. Legally, nobody reports to me, which is another reason I say I'm a chief of staff as opposed to a COO. But I will have conversations, meetings, conversations, run projects for those law firm owners to help their business grow, right? I'm truly the strategic partner. And so that's really the big thing that they need. They don't need coaching. They don't need somebody to tell them what to do. They need somebody to help them get it done.
I got you. Wow. So you really are doing hands-on.
Very much. Yeah.
You're within the internal structure. That's
Yes,
interesting.
absolutely. Yep. I am in the firm. I am embedded in the firm as a fractional, and I am helping that attorney get stuff done. Right now, whether that is getting stuff done by me actually doing it, which in some cases happens, or that's getting stuff done by helping lay out plans and stuff that the attorney or the employees of the firm are actually going to do. That it just depends. All right. But yeah, it's the getting stuff done. It's not just the coming with ideas, right? It's actually getting stuff done.
Well, and that's one of the problems that they run into, right? Is there's a lawyer, they get overwhelmed and they don't know how to get stuff done.
Right. Right.
Or it's not something they like to do. They became a lawyer to do law, right?
Right.
So to run a business, actually, they realize that there's growth potential in businesses and you can make a lot of money in businesses, but they don't have the first idea how to do it, or they get in their own way so much
Yeah.
that it's crazy.
Like physicians, right?
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, and I know Law Firm Mentor, by the way, really well. And I know a couple of the coaches there, and they're really good at kind of getting them out of their own way a little bit.
Yes.
So they do
Yes.
a good job there.
Yep. They do.
So as they move from the coaching side, let's say from Law Firm Mentor kind of coaching side to more of what you're doing, what do you find is their biggest hurdles that they're struggling with?
Well, there's so many. It's hard
Like you said.
it's hard to say there's one, right? But it really, in my experience here, it comes down to really a couple of things. One is, do they actually have a good strategy? And by strategy, I mean the ability to win in the market, right? Do they have the ability to actually get clients? And I don't mean sales. I mean, do they have a service that is positioned differently than everybody else to get clients? So it's not just them, selling, right? A lot of times the owner of the business, the attorney, is the rainmaker. And the only reason they get clients is because of their brute force efforts, right? So that's one thing. The second thing is the people side, right? Is, do they have the right people? Are those people getting mentored? Are they getting coached up right? Are they actually being able to do what they need to do? And then another place that they really struggle is measurement. They don't really have good measurements. And whether those measurements are financial, which is more than just profit and loss, whether they're financial or operational, they don't really understand what their business is. And so those are the places that we a lot of times focus on, is those. And pretty much everything falls into those kind of buckets of strategy and people and measurement. And we pick, through the process that I have, we pick something to focus on, and we focus on it and make it better.
And so, Craig, how do you then coach this said firm, to be higher up in that, in whatever it is that they're concentrating on? What do you tell them as far as their marketing efforts and, where they're positioned in the marketplace for what they do? What do you do with that? Has to do with advertising? Does it have to do with their mission statement? Does it have to do with them going out and kind of soliciting clientele? What do you tell them?
Yeah, the first thing, and you'll notice up on my screen is up behind me is a book called What is Strategy by Joan McGreta. But
Yeah.
basically, it's a summary of Michael Porter, right? Is basically what it is. She wrote another book called Understanding Michael Porter. Um, and so what strategy is at its essence is how do we compete in the market? And Michael Porter says it's really two. I'm gonna not plagiarize, not the right word. I'm going to sum up a lot of what he says into my own words here. It's
Yeah.
it's offering something different by doing something different, right? Those are the two portions of strategy that Michael Porter talks about a lot. So,
Okay.
how do we win in the market? Why do people choose us as opposed to choosing somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then what do we do differently to fulfill that promise or what we're doing for those clients that's different, right? Those are the two things. Everything stems from that, whether it's sales and marketing,
Mm-hmm.
positioning statements, advertising, social media, whatever it might be, or whether it's operations of delivering, right? Having the right people. Like if we think about Domino's back in the day, we're probably all old enough to remember Domino's, 30 minutes or it's free, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
was their positioning statement. That was their brand promise, 30 minutes or it's free. And everything stems from that one position, whether it's the marketing of 30 minutes or it's free, or the operations of designing the operations around being able to take an order, make a pizza, and drive it to the location within 30 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that is the everything stems from that. Don't do marketing if you don't know how you're different. Marketing is irrelevant if you
Yes.
don't know how you're different, right? Now you're just blasting out something, and the only thing that people are going to compete on is now your price, right? You're just blasting out saying, "Here we are. I'm a lawyer, and I do family law." Okay, there's a bajillion lawyers who do family law.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably in Nashville, there's probably 100 who specialize in family law, and there's probably 500 who do family law, right? Okay, that's
Sure.
wonderful. So I put your name out there. Now, the only reason I'm picking you over picking somebody else is because you happen to be on Google first. Somebody told me about you, whatever, but you're no different than anybody else, right? It's just kind of random luck, right? So, what makes you different? Why should I choose you as a family attorney as opposed to somebody else? So, that's the main thing. And we design everything from marketing to operations to finance around that particular the value proposition, what makes us different than somebody else.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
give me an example because I'm thinking as you were talking, I was thinking through that. I'm like, there are a bazillion lawyers, right, in different verticals, but there's for every one, there's estate planning lawyers, there's family law, and there's criminal law, and you name it, right?
Yep.
How do you?
Yep.
A lawyer's a lawyer, right? So what makes a lawyer different from the other lawyer? And
Yes.
give me an
Right.
example.
Yeah.
Something
A
that,
good
that
value proposition.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first let me go into the theory of a value proposition or what I like to position as. So there's six elements to the value proposition. One is who are we selling to, right? The other one is what are we selling? What service or product are we selling? The third one is how is it priced? And that pricing isn't just the amount, it's also the timing when we actually charge before, after, 50% forward, right? What is the frequency of that? It's a one-time payment, it's 12 months, and how long does it last, right? So that's, is it a subscription, right? Whatever. So that's the pricing aspect. And then what I call the three whys. Why do they need this service? We need to understand, why does somebody need the service that we offer, right? If we are in family law, why does somebody need family law, right? And we may delve down into, when we say family law, now we may go down into, it's divorces where there are adopted kids. But that's a whole different niche. We're really niching down into what we do and for whom, right? And so why do people need divorce services with adopted kids? The second thing is differentiation. Why should they choose us as opposed to our competitors? Right. And then the third thing is trust. Why should they trust us? So those are the three whys. And I look at trust in two ways. One of them is sort of the looking backwards portion of trust. The looking backwards is certifications that we have, testimonials, social proof,
Mm-hmm.
successful outcomes, those kinds of things. But it's also the forward-looking trust of, you should trust us because if we don't deliver, there's a guarantee, right? So a brand promise like Domino's 30 minutes or it's free consists of two things. One of them is a guarantee, 30 minutes, and then there's a
Right.
penalty or it's free. So trust is really that two things. It's looking backwards and looking forwards, right? So that's kind of the overarching what is a value proposition. So now let's think about a value proposition for why should somebody choose me as a family law attorney as opposed to somebody else? Well, because we specialize in just divorces where there's adopted kids. That's a
So sharpening your
differentiation,
pencil. Yeah.
So
right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right?
sharpen. Yeah.
It's not just a differentiation in who we're serving, but it's also like we are specialized in this. We have
Mhm.
something different, right? Um, so there is that. Why should somebody choose us as opposed to somebody else? Could somebody else do and maybe do an excellent job with a divorce with adopted kids if they don't specialize in that, if they don't advertise it, if that's not their niche? Probably could do just fine, right? But what if I'm looking for that and I know I have adopted kids and this is what we specialize in, and now the way we deliver it is, we are going to, in addition to providing the legal services, we're also going to provide other services to make sure that adopted kids know, because they've already been in and out of a home or more through that process, that we're going to take care of those kids in some way to make sure that they're safe, right? Now that's another differentiator, right? So that is the crux. Everything now stems from that value proposition. Everything. It's how we sell and it's how we deliver.
Okay. So now, are you then suggesting to firms that they really dial down to very specific types of practice or types of law
I'm
so that
su-
they do kind of cut through the
Not,
rest?
not necessarily.
Not
I'm
necessarily.
suggesting
Okay.
I'm suggesting is that what I tell them is that we need to document whatever this is. And if it makes
Yeah.
no
Okay.
sense, if you tell me that the reason people pick us is because of our superior customer service, I'm going to say, well, everybody can say that.
Right.
So if that's true, how do we measure it? And what's the brand promise there? What's that guarantee plus penalty that we're going to put around superior customer service, right?
Yeah.
So we have to document it. I am not at all telling somebody you should do this or you should do that, right?
Right.
We're going
Right.
to document it and make sure that it makes sense, right? That differentiation, that why should they choose us as opposed to somebody else is actually true. It actually makes sense. It would actually make
Mhm.
somebody pick them as opposed to pick somebody else. But if somebody wants to say, hey, I'm going to do criminal law for everybody and anybody coming. Okay, cool. That's what you want to do. Fine. Why should they pick you? Or they're going to
Right.
pick us because it's lowest price, right? Or they're going to pick I mean, that's one of the things Michael Porter talks about is cost versus differentiation, right?
Mhm.
So if you want to be everything to everybody, and the reason that they're going to come to you is because no case is going to cost more than $100, and you're designing your operations around making a profit at $100 case. Cool, go for it. So I don't really have any dog in the hunt as far as what they should do. I just want to make sure that what we've documented actually makes sense,
I see. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so you're building a campaign, you're building value, you are going in with some of the operational aspects of all of this, the marketing tools, all of that. And then
What?
like also the people. That's the other thing that's kind of interesting to us too, because Jeff and I are big about the people involved in leadership or in business. So how do you work with the firms in getting the people engaged, Craig? Like, do you have certain protocols or do you have certain exercises they do or certain meetings that you require them to attend? How does that all work with the people?
Yes. Yep. So depending on the size of the firm and exactly how the firm is structured, we're going to implement differently. But the general idea is there's always going to be the most important meetings in any business is going to be one, some kind of a weekly tactical meeting, right? So Seth Patrick Lencioni called it a weekly tactical meeting. In EOS they call it an L10,
Mhm.
whatever. It's the same kind of meeting, right? It's like that rhythm of meetings. That's the most important meeting. I won't go into detail about that. That may be just the leadership team. Like it may be like I have one firm that has enough people in it. It's just the 4 people on leadership team who are in that meeting. That may be the entire firm. I have another firm. They only have 5 people. So it's everybody in the whole firm is in that weekly tactical meeting, right?
Mhm.
The next thing is one-on-ones, right? So I will have one-on-ones with many people in the firm on a routine basis, right? Whether that is weekly, biweekly, monthly, whatever it might be. Um, and I encourage and teach the owner to do the same thing on whatever basis makes sense. But we have a specific format for doing one-on-one meetings. But that's the second thing is doing that one-on-one. The most important relationship in any firm is the employee to the owner of the firm, right?
Sure.
Um, so that's the second thing. And then the third thing is planning meetings. So review and planning, right? So what I see in a lot of firms is that, and this is not just law firms, this is all businesses, all small businesses. The owner of the business has a million ideas and they just keep throwing ideas out. And so, I force the owners to put these on a list, and then on a periodic basis, usually monthly, sometimes quarterly, we will then look at the list and say, okay, what are we working on now? Right. As opposed to, shifting priorities all the time, adding stuff to people's plates. Right. And then nothing ever gets done. You get 50 things that are 5% done instead of 3 things that are 100% done. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so those are the 3 things that we are going to implement. Now, so the question this really comes down to is, how do you know what to do? Right. So I have an assessment. It's called the Firm Foundation Assessment. It's based on the Malcolm Baldrige criteria. You ever heard of Malcolm Baldrige? Malcolm Baldrige is a national quality award that was established in the 1980s. It's run by NIST, the National Institute for Standards and Technology. And so I have created this modified some stuff from Baldrige. There's 43 questions, and it goes through and gives a very detailed report. It's called the Firm Foundation, and it's around strategy, leadership, operations, workforce, finance, results. It's around all of those things. It gives a very detailed report around how the business owner is taking this, so it's their opinion, but the questions are good enough where we can say, hey, look, on the leadership section, this is how you rated yourself, and here are some recommendations. And so part of what I do at the very beginning, in my process, the first step in my process is to do a deep dive. Part of that deep dive is to take the Firm Foundation assessment. Part is for me to do a financial analysis. Part of it is for everybody to take the predictive index. Part is for me to do interviews with all of the key players in the firm, whether that's everybody or just some of the players, but all the key players in the firm. And that gives me a total picture plus a big intake questionnaire that I have around like what software they use and all that tons of stuff, right? Gives me a big picture. From that, then we can decide, okay, what do we want to tackle now? Because the thing that you want to do is you got to have a quick win, right? Right. So, there's a book called The First 90 Days, which is a really, really good book about like if you're a brand new employee or leader in a firm. Well, I'm a brand new employee or leader in the firm. And so we go through those first 90 days. We're going to do that deep dive. We're going to get some quick wins under our belt. Quick win may be completing some project. It may be just starting this routine, this rhythm of meetings. But we do get those quick wins, and then it's just quarter after quarter. It's 90 days at a time, right? We decide on our quarters, and just like it's whether it's EOS or the 12-week year or a million other things, right? Quarter by quarter. We're going to get done this quarter, we get it done. We're going to get done this quarter, we get it done. And the firm is now constantly moving forward. So the Firm Foundation Assessment is very, very key to what I do. People can take it. You can take it and you'll get an email and a 12-page detailed report, and then multiple emails after that explaining about it. So if anybody wants to take the Firm Foundation report, just go for it.
That's really interesting.
That's right. So interesting. A couple of things that you talked about. As you were talking about the strategies and things, I was thinking about the lawyers in Nashville that are so prominent. We got Morgan and Morgan, we got Bart Durham, we got
Durham,
we got Hughes and Coleman and Rocky and they've
all injury lawyers.
Yeah, right.
Correct.
But what they're building in that, but it's funny because they're all injury lawyers, right? But all of them, there's 5. Ponzi Law is the other one I think of, right? So there's five law firms there who are trying to make themselves different, unique, and do that. But they use TV and all the other stuff. But I was thinking about that. How do those guys differentiate themselves? But they do. You know, I mean, you connect with certain ones that you wouldn't probably connect with
Yes.
the others.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, if you look at, say, Durham, they talk about the son Blair being
yep,
a former
Yes.
Marine,
yep,
right? So maybe that is appealing now to veterans, right?
right,
But at they are just because of their scale, they're less competing on really differentiation than they are just competing on appeal,
okay,
right? So, but now let's say that somebody came along and they said, I am only going to do injury law for undocumented immigrants.
there you go.
Boom, that's a differentiation. That is
Sure,
completely different, right?
love
And
it.
if
Yeah.
you can position yourself in that way and you can get the word out about that, now it's like, okay, I am different. You could be very small, never advertise on TV to against these guys and only go for this one market. You're differentiated. And if you could deliver for that market, that might be something to go for, right? So
Mhm.
this is where we come down. That's where the differentiation is, right? And that's what you find. If you have a firm with one attorney and two paralegals and an executive assistant, how do they differentiate themselves? If they were going to do injury law, how does that really small firm differentiate themselves and compete against Morgan and Morgan, who has 400 attorneys across
Right,
the country and thousands of paralegals? How do they compete against that? Well, they can't compete on the basis of advertising. Probably can't compete on the basis of price. They got to compete on the basis of something else. So that's maybe niching down to only doing undocumented immigrants is the way to go. I don't know, just making something up, right?
Yeah.
Um, so
yeah,
or maybe we're going to serve, yeah, we can serve everybody, but we're going to do it in a way where we guarantee an outcome in less than 2 weeks.
yeah,
Really hard with the court system, but just making up something, right?
sure.
So maybe speed is a differentiator, but you have to do something that's different,
I love it.
right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. And we're talking about law firms, but I just want to make sure our listeners realize this is any business that you're doing,
Any
Oh,
business,
yeah.
right?
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
any business.
Yeah.
I have
I
a
think it's
friend
key.
who has an insurance agency, and he only works with Hispanic business owners.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? I mean, so he's niched down and it's
Yeah.
wonderful. It works. It's perfect. It works great. Right. And so, yes, that niching down that and being different, right?
Yes.
In some way, you have to be different. If you're not different, you're just competing on cost or you're
Right.
competing on who the owner can talk to,
It's so funny. I
right?
had a
How many people the
conversation.
owner knows.
Yeah. I had a conversation 2 days ago with someone, and we were walking through what we do, because we do leadership coaching. And he said, is there a particular, he did exactly what you're talking about. He said, is there a particular genre or type of person that you want to work with? And I said, it's interesting. I said, we just realized that 75% of the workforce is going to be millennials by next year, and
Mhm.
69% of those millennials need help in leadership. He goes, well, that should be the differentiator for you. You
That's
guys should
right.
Right,
focus on millennials because they need
right,
the most help right now. And I
right,
thought, wow, what
right.
a great thing. I hadn't thought about
Yeah.
it that way.
And I think, Jeff, something that you talk about there is we have to make sure that the differentiation and niche aren't synonymous in our brain, right? Because it's easy to say my niche is millennials who need leadership, right? Anybody can say that, right? Anybody can
Right.
target that market. How now is Pull the Chute different than anybody else who can target that market, right? We're different
Yeah.
because we have a proprietary framework that's backed by science, again, making stuff up, that's backed by science around coaching millennials in leadership, right? As opposed to somebody who just says, well, I'm targeting them, but I don't know anything, right?
Yeah, I
So
love that.
Right.
any fractional COO could say, well, I'm going to go after law firms, and a lot of them do. What's different about Craig? Well, Craig has applied the Baldrige framework to law firms.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
differentiator for me, right? As opposed to
Mhm.
anybody saying they can do it. I've never worked in a law firm. I don't have that background. A lot of people who are fractional COOs have worked in law firms. I think it's one differentiator for me is because I haven't. I don't have uh, that baggage, that blinder on. I approach
Hmm.
things a completely different way. Somebody who's been in manufacturing and healthcare and was a CEO, right? But also I've taken this framework that has been useful for 40 years for businesses to be excellent. It's called the Baldrige Excellence Framework for
Yeah.
business to be excellent and apply that to a law firm,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's something different that I do
Right.
than other fractionals. Now, I've just, if somebody else wants to go do that, wonderful. There's enough room for a couple of us to go and do
Yeah, right.
right.
That's really
I love it,
interesting.
love it. Hey, Craig, we got to wind this up, but man, this was exciting. This is, man, just my brain is firing on all cylinders right now, which is
Good.
different things. So, and for our listeners out there, I hope for you guys it's the same, because there's so much to think about and to learn and to just get insight on. So, Craig, if people want to get a hold of you to learn a little more and maybe you can help them, how can they do that?
Yeah, just go to visionaryresults.com, my website. If you're a law firm owner or just a small business owner, you can take the firm foundation assessment. If you're in pool service or something else, just replace where it says firm and attorney with business and owner, and you'll be fine.
Yes.
Right.
Take the firm foundation assessment or book a meeting. Contact me. For law firm owners, there's a document. It's the 2025 Law Firm Excellence Brief, which is out right now. Will be out for all of 2025 as well, which really talks through what are the challenges and opportunities for law firms. It's basically doing a strategic analysis of the industry for law firms,
Okay.
to get them that picture. So yeah, but just visionaryresults.com. And yeah, hope I can talk.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Craig, thanks again for being on the show. We appreciate it so much. To all our listeners out there, this was very insightful. I hope you gained some insight and some knowledge about figuring out your strategy and what to look for and the 3 whys and all the things that Craig was talking about. Again, if you need a little bit of help, reach out to Craig. But we're excited as always for your support. Continue to do that. We love it. Until the next time, stay safe and be healthy.